I'm sharing a photography project between me and my wife. It's a photo essay that explores how photography can show how height affects and effects and understanding spaces, bodies, and objects. So photography can be used as a method to reveal the everyday and evokes insights through images. What makes the project different is the didactic nature, both of creating and interpreting the images. What we do is that we have a film camera. It's a uh, half frame camera from the 1960s. It shows material evidences and values to the images that we create. It encourages interaction and communication. But more importantly, there's authorship and visual intent. Being film, we just can't shoot whatever and just talk about it later. There's a certain sense of intent, a certain sense of what do you see? How do you interrogate it? How do you experience it? So for this one, again, film camera, no digital back. There's a counter of how many shots. And then what we do is that we press here and then take a photo. So what we do is that I take a photo and then I hand it to her, then she takes a photo. Now here are some samples. So this is the bear in BGC. As you can see, we differ in size. Danny's 4'10", I'm 5'11". Danny is supposedly close to the average height of Filipino women, which is 4'11". For males, it's 5'3" and 3/4. This is according to the ASEAN. But what we see here is that there are differences, variations in perspective brought by a foot and an inch of height difference. Here is a mirror, and for the most part, mirrors are confusing, no? But even more so with height, how much do we frame? How much do we see? For those who have been to UP, this is at the Palma Hall extension. I am under stairs, like bending down. But for Danny, she can do it with her arms straight up. So we see how spaces are more advantageous for people of particular heights. And in this project, we look at the built structures, people, and public spaces. Nor both teachers. So this is something how we see a classroom of spaces interacting with people. But we imagine this classroom filled with students, how we see them and how they see us. For me, I can see all the way to the back of the classroom, but for Danny, it's mostly the front and the middle. Now, this is Kuya Collins. Notice how much headroom there is on the photo on the left, which was taken by me, and then Danny's photo on the right, which is shows like a medium shot, no, of Kuya Collins. This method reveals how we interact differently to the same individuals due to our perspectives. How do we perceive people in space and spaces with people is markedly affected by our stature. And a more poignant example here is we have Raph and Jago, my inaanak, with my friend Badge in the background. Notice how Badge is present in the left frame and absent on the image on the right. This shows the higher perspective provides depth within the frame, while Danny fills up the frame. This reflective of our everyday experience of a small person or is one who is unable to see beyond or what is directly in front of them. Now, another case in point would be built environments such as shelves that may facilitate or hinder certain actions relative to one's individual characteristics. This is in fully booked. And in a children's section, imagine even within a children's book section, there's a problem of accessibility, of physical mobilities and access. Here we reveal a mismatch between the supposed users of space, children, and the design of this space. Barriers abound in urban spaces because they act as boundaries and for some more than others. It is the indoor walls, the spaces, the access. Earlier, we saw arm's reach, but can be also in terms of visual reach. What can you see? What are you able to see? Then we have also some disadvantages, which may be reversed. No, most notably in Philippine urban transportation. So I hate Cebu Pacific. I can't fit in the chairs, no, and this also happens in public transport and tricycles, and it's very hard to fit myself there. But for Dan, it feels like business class and it's her legs don't reach the next seat. Then there is yoga because the body as a space and scale and the movements that we make. Look at how I'm filling up the yoga mat and how low Danny can go in doing yoga. That's also about experiencing and filling spaces, filling up like a 5 foot pool. No, for me, I'm hands up. I can breathe easily. But for Danny, it's just to the elbows and she's submerged. So goodbye during climate change. And finally, it is in nature that we see our photos not just on difference, but rather we see things mostly in the same way. Looking at this, we were struck by how often the built, rather than the natural environment, creates a dividing line between our visual spatial experiences. So there are some things that we see here now, photography as an interface between space and place. We also become critical of our own privileged spaces. We ask the question because we ask the question of whose landscape is this created for and who has access for it.